guys, we are officially live. So today for our regularly scheduled Tuesday Facebook Live, we are going to talk about a very fun sport that I am thrilled to get some of my friends involved in, which is cani-hiking. Now, cani-hiking is different than just walking with your dog or hiking with your dog. You need special equipment to do it. You need to go certain places to do it, and it works a little differently. So if your dog really likes to pull on leash, this is an awesome outlet for them to learn how to do it appropriately. It's a really nice way to tire out the whole dog so that you come home with a relaxed and quiet dog that is ready to sleep, because you and your dog are working together as a team while you are cani-hiking. So, hey, Stephen, nice to see you here today. So cani-hiking is different than normal hiking or walking with your dog. You need special equipment to do it, and it's dog-powered, meaning that the dog is out in front of you and pulling. So for people who already are involved in dryland mushing sports like bikejoring, canicross, it's a really nice way to maintain that nice leash pressure, your direction responses, while you guys are moving at a slower pace, which is great for people over the summer and when weather is not conducive to dryland mushing. It's also a great way for people who think dog-powered sports look fun to kind of ease into the process and do it safely and comfortably, because you don't have to be a super athlete to go out and cani-hike with your dog. And you can have any kind of dog. It can be a little dog, a big dog. As long as you guys are ready to hit the trails together, you're going to have a ton of fun in this. So the dog is out in front. Hey, Michelle. And Michelle, you just signed up for our class. We're so thrilled to have you. So cani-hiking, the dog is out in front of you while you guys are tackling the trail together. So they're the trail leader, so to speak. They're moving out in front. They're allowed to have pressure on the line in this circumstance. Now, I know some people might be going, wait a minute, is this going to undo all of my leash walking? And don't worry about that, because we just did a video on this, on how you can have dog-powered sports and loose leash. So I will be sure to post that here afterwards for you guys. So the dog is in special equipment that's designed and is safe for pulling. Appropriate fit is obviously super important with all of our cani-hiking equipment, so that it's comfortable for the dog to pull and comfortable for you to be pulled. The line that attaches the dog to you has a little bit of bungee in it. So as the dog pulls, it's going to stretch out. And when they relieve some of that pressure, it kind of comes back together. And that's really important, because it makes the pulling more comfortable for you and the dog. So as they start pulling you up the hill, or if they turn off to the right pretty quickly, that bungee section gives you a little bit more give to help make it pull instead of just jerking you off your feet. Now, the harness that the human wears is very comfortable as well. There's a few different styles of them. Generally, they have leg straps. They've got nice padding around the waist. So it's really comfortable, and they're designed for this sport. And so it distributes the pull appropriately, making it really comfortable for you to wear and to move around in. Now, I'm going to show you guys a few pictures here so that you can see what we're talking about in action. So here is a picture. A couple weekends ago, we went out for a group cani-hike, and you can see that this is perfect for social distancing. If you've got a big open trail like this, you guys can kind of spread apart with those masks and keeping that 6 feet. And if you're on more of a single track trail, again, it's easy to keep space with this. So it's actually a great sport for dogs that need a little extra space. They can comfortably get around other dogs without being all up in their face. So even reactive dogs can enjoy this sport with other dogs. Now you can see that we've got a combination of dog sizes here. The dog is attached to the human with a line, and they are in their special harnesses. And the other really nice thing about this is that when you are out on adventures with your dog, you can see that if you've got a decent, medium to large size dog, they can actually help pull you up that hill. So we are putting them to work, helping drag us up those hills. The other really cool thing about it is that you guys can get creative. You can go to all kinds of new places. So my husband and I actually 2 days ago on a Sunday went out with our dogs to a new trail in Pisgah National Forest. And so it really is a fun way for you and your dog to get out. You're going to see new places. You're going to explore new trails. Now, let's talk about trail selection. If you have thicker legs, should you get a belt without leg straps so they don't rub? Yeah, you definitely can, Courtney. So the cool thing about all of these different waist belts that the human wears too is that you can get custom sizes. You can get different styles with more padding or less padding depending on the size of your dog. Now, I know you have big dogs, so I would recommend something with some padding. Nonstop makes a really nice trekking belt that is wider, and you can choose to remove the leg straps if you don't want them on there. CTC makes a custom belt, so you can choose width, you can choose the size that you need. So lots of options there. Generally, for the dogs that like to pull, the wider kind of strap around the back is going to be more comfortable for you for Cani-Hiking, and that applies with both the Nonstop and the CTC. So that's where I would probably send you to take a look at their stuff. The leg straps, the purpose of it is to help hold the belt in place. It just stabilizes it a little bit. Sometimes when we're out, we take the leg straps off. It really is, personal preference. Also, depending on what you are wearing, if you're wearing something that's a little bit looser, like a looser short, sometimes it can kind of bunch up your shorts. So generally when I go out, I'll wear something more like leggings or, fitted shorts where the straps aren't going to move around. So you can also choose, what style of belt you would like and whether or not you'd like those leg straps based on what you like to wear when you go out hiking as well. That photo looks so awesome and the weather looks great too. Yeah, we were a little worried when we got there, Sneha, because it was super cloudy and cold. And we were like, oh, great, we're not going to be able to see anything. But fortunately, in the Great Smoky Mountains, it ended up clearing up for us quite a bit. So trails, let's go back to trail selection. So if you're just getting started, you can go for easier trails that are wider, more like this one here, pretty flat, grassy, easy to navigate, not a lot of trees to get in your way. So when you're first starting out, I've got a nice video on introduction to canicross trails, and actually the same things apply for Cani-Hiking. I'm choosing things that are generally flatter, less obstacles to get in the way of. And then the cool thing about it is that as you gain confidence, as your dog gains confidence, or if you're already a super avid hiker and love adventures, you can choose trails with lots of incline, lots of rocks, lots of trees, and you and your dog get to navigate all of that together. So here I'm giving Lennon a hike cue so that he's pulling me up the hill. And then obviously when we're going down hills, we're using easy so that the dogs slow down and move with us. Now, cues are going to be quite important because we are attached to the dog. So what cues are we using? Generally, I use a walk-on cue, which means that the dog can start walking. I'll use my whoa, which is to stop, which is super important. Easy is a slow down cue. So I use those quite a bit going down hills. My arthritis makes it hard for me to navigate those downhills. So when we were in Pisgah on Sunday, there was lots of whoas, and Lennon would stop and I would go down the hill just a little bit, let him walk, and then ask him to stop again. And that just makes it easy for me to kind of navigate the trail on my own without worrying about him, pulling me down. So you'll want to make sure those cues are really nice and strong. The other one we really want to make sure we have is on by, and that is passing our distractions. So if you approach, a squirrel on the trail or another person and you want your dog to pass, we're going to use our on by cue. And that's something that for a lot of teams takes a long time to build. Now, depending on the kinds of trails you're traveling, you're also going to need right, left, or G and haw. You're also going to need your straight ahead cue. So if you're encountering trails with lots of different turns, you're going to need to be able to give your dog the signal on which way to turn, because remember, they're out in front of you. So it's a really awesome sport to have your dog work their body physically and work them mentally, because not only are they having to work and listen and respond to all of your cues, but they're encountering all these different fun things on the trail to sniff and to look at. And so when you come home from a Cani-Hike, oh my gosh, the dogs are exhausted because they are so physically and mentally satisfied from all of the activity. Now, when you are out there, it's also an awesome relationship builder because you and your dog are working together as a team. So I rely on him to slow down and stop when I ask so that I can navigate down that, tricky single track rock scrambling kind of trail. And I need him to kind of step it up and help pull me up that hill. So it really is a really nice relationship builder too. Now, when we go on the trail with our dogs, there's a few things that we bring extra because our dogs are with us. I'm a big stickler on safety, so we're going to pop this up real quick as we talk about what to pack. Now, whenever I go anywhere with my dogs, you guys know my video last week on traveling with dogs. I'm very prepared when I go places with my dogs because a lot of the times the things they need for safety and health and wellness, it's not like I can just zip around the corner to a store, especially a lot of the places we're going that are pretty backcountry. We might even go for days and camp out in the wild. So I need to make sure that everything is planned ahead of time. But I keep that same vigilance, even if I'm just going to a local park, because I like to be prepared. You never know when something's going to happen. So things that we're going to pack. Number one, lots of water. Remember, you're not just bringing water for yourself, you're bringing water for the dog now too. So we need to make sure that we are bringing enough water that they have enough and we have enough, and I always bring room for extra. Now, if you're going somewhere where there's going to be a lot of fresh water nearby, like lakes or rivers, you can always get something called a life straw, and it can filter out any impurities or bacteria that's in the water so that you can not carry so much, but have that with you to filter what you find. But make sure that you're going somewhere that you're familiar with, that has lots of water access, so that you're not relying on there being water there and not knowing and not packing your own. So number one is water for you and the dog and a collapsible bowl. That's easy to pack. I'm looking for things that are lightweight, things that can compact into a nice small size. So Kurgo and Roughwear both make, collapsible bowls that are great. And afterwards, I can post links for these in the description, so it's easy for you guys to find what I like to use. In terms of water bottles, I'm generally bringing bladders. They're designed for camping, so they're really flexible, reusable material that's easy to fill and then pack. And then the cool thing is that as you consume the water, it's going to decrease in size, which again makes that pack lighter and easier. And then we're not bringing a bunch of things out on the trail that we then have to worry about bringing back out with us, like trash, water bottles, that kind of thing. The other thing I make sure I bring are snacks. So I'm bringing snacks for me. I'm bringing snacks for the dogs because they're working their butts off just like you are. So if you're going out long enough that you're going to be tired and hungry, they are too. So generally for the dogs, I'm bringing, high protein like jerky strips, something that's easy for them to crunch up and then it's gone. For me, I'm bringing protein bars. Can bring granola, again, things that are just easy to pack. And the other thing I'm bringing for the dogs is a first aid kit. So my first aid kit is human and dog friendly. I kind of pack it all into one. And we bring that if we're going far enough that we're not going to see the car. I've got big dogs too. So part of my first aid kit is the travel bag. So they have this awesome sling for big dogs that basically becomes a carrier. Their legs go through and you can strap them onto your back. Practice with this at home before you put it into your pack. It takes a little bit of finesse to figure out how to use it and lots of positive reinforcement, but it's a really nice thing to have out on the trail to make sure that you can get your dog out of there if they were to get injured. So we've got that in our first aid kit. We also have some easy paw care things. We have some Benadryl in case anybody gets stung by something. Benadryl is human and dog safe, so you guys can talk to your vets about dosage for that if you are big adventurers. We also bring, something to clean a wound with if we were to have one, and then we bring a couple pairs of booties just in case the dog were to cut its foot or something on a rock. We'd be able to clean it and then put a bootie over it to protect the foot, so that no dirt and debris and stuff like that gets up into the wound. So we're making sure that we're bringing along all of that whenever we're headed out. And it's easy to just fit into a backpack, and then we carry that along. In terms of human equipment, so we talked about the belt that the human is going to wear. You're also going to want to make sure that you have some good trail shoes, more than just like a street tennis shoe, something with some grit on the bottom that's going to help you. If you have unstable ankles, you might even like some ankle stabilizers or more of a hiking boot that's going to come up and stabilize your ankle, prevents you from rolling it on the trail. And the other thing, especially right now, with the pandemic, bring your mask. We wear gaiters out on the trail, so it's easy, it sits around your neck, and it's easy to kind of pull up over your face if you're passing somebody, and then you can pull it back down. And again, it just makes it a little more convenient. Any tips for training easy? This is from Sneha. I think Hendrix finds it difficult to differentiate between that and whoa. So we just keep saying whoa for downhill to prevent him from pulling us. Yeah, so dogs are super smart. They can absolutely learn the difference in cues, even if those cues sound different. So one tip that I use is that remember that the way that you give your cue is going to impact the dog. So when I want them to pull real hard and, be excited, it's hike, hike, and yes, good job, right? But when I'm reinforcing or asking for a calm behavior, like easy or whoa, I say it like it sounds. So it's easy, good dogs, right? And whoa. I do differentiate between the two. So easy means slow down. It means move slower. It means don't pull as hard. Whoa means to stop and plant feet. So all of the training that you need to do for these behaviors has to be done, in home, with minimal distractions. So you could even clip to a collar with a little leash, and you start walking. And as you slow, you can reinforce the dog for slowing, and same thing for stop. And it all helping the dog kind of understand the difference between the two all comes down to your training plan, making sure that you understand the definition, you're reinforcing the behaviors differently. So if there's kind of been some cloudiness in the cues you've been using and how you mean them, then you'll want to make sure that kind of moving forward, you do differentiate and expect a little bit of a delay, because one word has meant more than one thing. So it's going to take a little bit of time for you guys to clarify what that means, if you want the two different cues. Because for me, again, it's super important as you're moving downhill. And I know you guys run canicross with Hendrix too. So having an easy and a stop are going to be really important for you guys. So I would go back to the drawing board, and you guys are in my class, so I can help you guys with that, on really differentiating between the two. It's going to be important. So cues, equipment, how do we find the trails that we want to go to? This can be challenging depending on where you live and how much access you have to state parks and national forests and things like that. I generally use All Trails. It's a website that's really easy to navigate. You can search by zip code. They have different filters, so you could filter out, hey, I want a place that's hiking only, no bikes, or I want something that's easy or challenging, and it'll tell you where it is, how to get there. It'll show you trail maps. There will be different reviews of it. And so for me, that's a really nice way for me to scope out something new before I go. Be mindful that because of the pandemic right now, there are some changes at different state parks, in terms of facilities being open, ranger stations, bathrooms, facilities, things like that. So just make sure that you look at their website before heading there to make sure it's open, and you'll have what you need. But I really like to plan ahead of time and look at all of the trails to figure out what I want to do that day. Some days I just want an easy, pretty walk, and some days I'm really ready to tackle some hills. And so you guys can plan your trips ahead of time. On All Trails, super easy, free resource for you there to find different places to walk and hike with your dog. So that is something that you guys can check out if you haven't already. State parks, national forests are generally where we like to go. And be mindful of weather too. That's the other thing. So when you guys are out on the trail, look at the weather ahead of time to know if you're going to need to bring a rain jacket, if you're going to need to plan extra time because the trails might be wet or flooded. And the other thing, so along our adventures, if you're friends with me on my personal page, you've probably seen some crazy stories of wild things happening to us. Don't rely on there being cell service while you're on the trail. So when we have our all trails map, we will screenshot it on our cell phone so that we've got that map up, or grab a paper map or print a paper map out. Don't rely on cell service when you're on the trail. And that's a big thing, because if you have mapped out the route you want to go, but there's different turnoffs, you're going to need to know where you are on that trail, and your map might not load. So make sure that you've got a backup plan for that. And then always tell someone where you're going, especially if you're going alone. Tell someone beforehand where you're going, how far you plan on being gone, and so what time they should expect to hear from you again, because you never know when something's going to happen on the trail, and it's always a good idea that someone knows where you are. And depending on where you're going, you guys might encounter some wildlife, so be prepared for that as well. We, depending on where we are hiking, will bring bear spray with us. It's basically like mace or pepper spray, but for bears, and so it shoots really far. And we'll have that in an easy to access pocket that fits right here. So on your backpack, make sure if there's an external pocket, that's where our bear spray is going. Just as a last resort. Bells also work pretty nicely in terms of fending off or scaring away some wildlife. So if you want, you could attach some bells. People attach them to the dog's harness, people attach them to you, so that you make noise basically while you're moving through the forest, and wildlife will generally try to avoid you. Kelsey says, I love all trails and the ability to save albums so I can remember ones I've done or want to do. Yeah, absolutely. It's basically like keeping a running tab for you, so you can save different ones you like so that you remember, and when you're ready to go out on an adventure, it's easy for you to kind of jump back into that list and go, okay, where do I want to go today? So it's super helpful when you're planning your trips. So before going, make sure that everything's packed. Make sure you've got your car, your water, your food, all your equipment. I packed my bag the night before so that it's ready when I'm ready, because in the morning, I'm usually pretty foggy and my brain is not working properly. So I don't want to rely on my morning to pack everything I'm going to need. So packing ahead of time really helps me. And then make sure that you get everything you'll need into a bag or something to travel with. Make sure that you have your dogs prepared for travel. So crates ready, harnesses ready, seat belts, that kind of thing. And then when you're heading out, remember to tell someone that you are heading out, especially if you're going alone. We always want someone to know where you are. Nina says, love this topic. We're on a water break on a Cani trek right now. Awesome. Bear Bells helped on our backpacking trip. Gaia is our favorite app for offline maps. Yes, awesome. That's pretty awesome that you're checking into while on the trail. And I'm glad you have cell service, because that doesn't always happen depending on where we go. Hope you enjoy the rest of your trip, Nina. Sneha, any tips for training easy? Oh, we already covered that one. Awesome. Must have posted twice. So make sure that you guys are prepared ahead of time. That's a big thing. Make sure your dogs are prepared for travel. Make sure you've trained all the cues you're going to need. Make sure you know where you're going. Figure out all of your maps. Get all your equipment packed. Do all your training. And when you're starting off, even though you might be ready to tackle, a 10-mile trail, especially if you're new and starting this off from scratch, make sure that you are slowly amping up your mileage and the difficulty, because we don't want to burn our dogs out on it. And if we head out before they're ready to tackle a long trail, if they haven't been doing a lot of mileage, or maybe they're a little overweight and we're trying to help them get some pounds off, if we go too far too fast and kind of push them, not only are they going to be tired and lagging, which is not what we want for dog-powered sports, but we also risk injury. So we don't want to overdo it. The other thing to be mindful of, beyond just, skeletal and muscular injuries with our dogs, is feet, because wear and tear is going to happen on the trails. So if you have a dog that has softer feet, you might consider training them to wear booties and pack those just in case. Some of my friends' dogs and clients' dogs have dogs that have softer feet. And so that can be built up over time by varying the terrain that you are training on. But if you're ready to get out on the trail now and their feet aren't quite ready, those booties will protect them so that they don't get slices in their pad, because that's pretty easy for that to happen if their pads are not built up, and it's something that takes a long time to heal. So it's going to take you guys off the trail, which is not something we want with our dogs. So keep an eye on those feet. Along with feet, I'm a big fan. If you've got a hairy dog, trim the bottom side. Make sure that we don't have Grinch toes or hobbit feet, people call them sometimes. We don't want any, crazy hair sticking out the bottom. So I will trim those with either a clipper, or if your dog is really comfortable with body handling, you can use the scissors. Just be very careful. The other thing is nail length. We want those nails pretty short, because if you think about it, we've talked about this on some of our fitness stuff. If the nails are too long, the dog is going to be awkwardly rocking back on their feet, and that causes joint issues. So generally speaking, the rule of thumb is if you can hear the nails tick, then they're too long. For some of the dog-powered sports, for some of the weight pulling, I will keep them just a hair on the longer side. Not so long that it's affecting movement, but long enough that if they needed to dig in, they could. Now, if I'm going on a hike that I know is going to be pretty rocky, I'm trimming them down a little bit. And again, you can kind of play with nail length as you move through this process. But if they're moving on rocks, we really need the pad of the feet for traction more than we need those nails. So I will adjust accordingly. And generally for my dogs, it's once a week that they need to be Dremeled. So again, I'll Dremel based on the trail that I am choosing to go on. So safety is a big thing for this. Planning is a big thing for this, but it's super fun because you and your dog are going to be able to go on adventures together. One of the biggest issues we have with pet dogs is that they're not getting enough. They're not getting enough physical exercise or mental exercise. And when that happens, we can see a lot of inappropriate behavior from them, barking, attention seeking, digging in the yard. But not only is this gonna, impact their physical and mental exercise, but it's also going to impact yours. And we all need some fresh air right now. We all need ways to de-stress. We need ways to social distance, and we need things to look forward to. And this is a really nice pandemic safe activity that you and your dog can do together to release some endorphins. All right, so Kelsey says we're working on that handling so we can clip the hair on his feet. Awesome. I know that's going to be a little bit of a work in progress, so just take it slow. As you know, you've got the exercises to work on that with Kumba. But trimming the bottom of those feet is going to be really nice for you guys to give you just a little bit of extra traction, trimming off some of that husky fur. So Lynn, let's see here. Let's dive through this long message here. Yes, so taking taxis or getting Ubers with dogs can be super challenging. So you might find more local trails easier to access. Nearest airport is a 2-hour drive. Oh my goodness. All right, let's see here. So yeah, so you might find that some more local places to walk are better, or Cani-Hike. You might even find, I know that you do some dry land mushing too. If the weather is cool enough, you could always bike from your house to a trail and go. Really, trail selection I know can be really different for lots of people depending on where you live and how many trails you have access to. I know some people that think driving, a half hour is a lot. And for me and my husband, when we went to Pisgah 2 weekends ago, we drove over 3. So it really just depends on a person-to-person basis. Generally for trails, we're looking for, especially in the beginning, things that are a little easier so that we can work on building our skills. We can work on having confidence on the trail for us too. We're not worried about rolling ankles and getting wrapped around trees. And then as you and your dog gain confidence and gain mileage, you could start to vary trails so that they're getting a little bit harder. McKelly, I shave my Doodle's legs because he's small and all the burrs get stuck in him. Yes, absolutely. That's a great idea. I'm glad you're doing that. So if you have the ability to do that, that's perfect, because then nothing's getting stuck in their fur. And that's the other thing. When you are out on a trail, especially depending on where you are going, we need to look for ticks. So making sure that you are on prevention or using remedies to get rid of ticks is important. You'll want to do that for safety. The other thing is I always check afterwards to make sure they don't have anything stuck on them like ticks or burrs, or like seeds. So when we were hiking last weekend, there were all these sticky seeds. They must have walked through some kind of plant and the plant grabbed onto them so that they could disperse seeds via nature. And so those were a pain to get out too. So sometimes even having like pet wipes or a towel that you can kind of pour some water on and rub your dog off and clean them is really helpful. Before loading up, I always give them access to that water once again, and then they get a cookie for coming into their crate. So kind of adding that into your routine will be nice, you know, checking feet. If you have warm up and cool down stretches, that's when I would do that cool down with them, offer them a last bit of water, and then load them up. And so by kind of having a routine with your dog, it makes it easy that you don't forget something. Kelsey says, so checking for ticks and sled dog fur. Do you just do a long scratch session? That's great. Yeah, so I have malamutes, I feel the pain. Fortunately for us, that double coat tends to make it really hard for ticks to stick. And bite in. It's obviously easier for people with short-coated dogs. I will look at kind of the vulnerable areas. And then, yeah, when we get home, we kind of do a more thorough search. But I look at the feet. We've had ticks that get stuck between the pads of the feet. Crazy. So I will look at their feet. I look at the armpits. Because that's an area without a lot of hair. So it's easy to see if there are any ticks there, and it's easy for the ticks to latch on. I also will look in the inguinal area, so like the stomach and between the two back legs in the back, because that's kind of another vulnerable area. And then the ears and the face. Those are the areas on, you know, dogs with big coats that have the least coat. So not only is it easier for you to see things there, but it's also easier for the ticks to latch on. So that's generally where I am checking after the walk. And then, of course, we're doing a more thorough check at home where we're petting and kind of making sure we don't feel anything on the dog. Kelly, I have a small bottle of coconut oil, and even with sticky seeds and burrs, it comes right off, even with doodle hair. Yep, that's awesome, because that's going to help kind of pull some of that out. And coconut oil is actually an awesome antibacterial that you could wipe on them too. So if you needed a little extra protection for scrapes and stuff, you could wipe that on there too. So packing is kind of important. It's going to vary for each dog. You guys are going to learn a lot as you start tackling the trails with your dogs for the first time. So make sure that every time you're out, you know, positive attitude, enjoy what you can. If things start to stress you out on the trail or you realize you didn't pack something, make a mental note, because you can do it next time. But it's a really nice way for you and your dog to get out, to work together. If you're involved in dryland mushing sports, it'll be easy for you to jump into this if you haven't already. Really, really nice way for you guys to get outdoors with your dogs. So I hope that this was helpful and kind of gave you a little overview of what to expect, some things to pack, some safety concerns to think about. I know I mentioned some products of things I like to use, so I can drop those into the description when we are done here so that you guys kind of take a look. And then play around with what you bring and what you like. And if there's something in particular that you want to learn more about, you can drop it in the comments and we will get to it. If you're interested in getting started in Cani-Hiking and you haven't done any dryland mushing sports, we do have an introduction class that's starting on October 6th. Classes will meet Tuesday evenings from 6 to 7. If you can't make it to our virtual class, all of the class recordings get posted into the group. So it's a really fun way for you to get some basics with equipment, with directions. We teach left and right, we teach stop and go, and we start on by or passing distractions. And then we also cover warm-ups and cool downs. So if you need an intro class to get you started with this, we would love to see you. We only have 4 spots left. So if you're interested, let me know and I'd be happy to get you signed up. You can also click on the link here. So I hope that this was informative for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Cani-Hiking is certainly something that I love to do with my dogs. Fresh air is so good for us, and it's a really nice way for us to ease into that activity and exercise together. My husband and I are planning a big trip over this fall. So hopefully we will be able to share more updates on that as we kind of dive into our plans a little bit more. Oh, we see here, if you could you please mention in the description the Big Dog Carry Sling you talked about? Yep, I absolutely will. It's a lifesaver. I will tell you that when you put dogs in it for the first time, they kind of, what is this? So they need a little bit of adjusting. We started, maybe I can do a video on that, but we started with it on the ground and then taught our dogs how to walk into it and then eased them into the process of being carried. And you'll want to do that ahead of time, because if you actually have to use it on the trail, you don't want to be increasing their stress level in an already stressful situation. But I will include that link there for you guys as well so that you can take a look at that, because getting big dogs off of a trail is definitely a concern, especially if you are, 10 miles in. So if you want to get signed up, you can sign up for our class. We'd love to have you. If you have other questions, be sure to post them in the comments and we'll keep an eye on this. And if you guys would like, I'd be happy to do some more Cani-Hiking videos for you, some tutorials and that kind of thing. So let me know if you'd be interested. All right, guys, as always, thank you so much for enjoying my Tuesday afternoon, and I will see you all next week. All right, bye, guys.